Good to see you, man. How are you?
Nice to see you guys too.
How excited are you to be able to get back in there in front of fans this week?
Real amazing, having the crowd back and fighting for a crowd through this pandemic. It's been strange to have this fight without the crowd, so it's very nice that things are going back to normal.
Is that something that you never realized, how much you appreciated it until it was gone, until there was, very few people in there to perform for?
It was nothing that we ever thought was going to happen, that we're going to have shows without a crowd, So when we started with those things in the beginning, it was a little bit strange. So I think still the Apex fights are great, the smaller shows. So, but still coming out to a full venue is totally different.
You're a couple fights in now at heavyweight. Do you feel like this is where you're staying for the rest of your career?
Yeah, this is my home now in heavyweight, I actually started my career in heavyweight. I did 2-3 fights. But I feel good in heavyweight, and I think weight cutting in the long run is not healthy for the fighters, and for me it feels better.
Had you just reached a point where getting down to 206 was just too taxing?
Yeah, it was very taxing. It's if you do it once a year, maybe it's okay. But if you're gonna fight 2-3 times a year, with time it takes a toll on the body, and the body wasn't recovering as it should. So I was cutting around 32 pounds, 34 pounds, to each fight. So didn't do me good. I also think it's also depending what kind of fighter, body type, and genetics too.
Where do you feel, I guess, the most difference physically when you don't have to cut? When you get in the cage, do you feel a strength difference? Do you feel strength, some kind of a
strength, the stamina, recovery, everything. Weight cutting takes a toll on the body in difference, not only in your power, but even in your endurance and even your ability to endure strikes and difference, So I think through time we've seen people start cutting weight in different ways, and we also seen other organizations that done different limits to not letting fighters cut too much weight,
You'll be coming up on 10 years in the UFC next year, I think. Could you have ever imagined that you'd have this long of a run here, given how you started in the UFC, which was kind of, took a lot of people by surprise? Like, hey, by the way, we need somebody to fight. Here's this guy. And that's how you were introduced to so many people.
Yeah.
And here you are 9 years later.
Yeah, it's been a pretty crazy run, I did my first UFC fight 31 years old, and jumping in on 3 days notice for Gustafsson when he got injured, cutting 30 pounds, taking that main event against the top 5 guy in the world. I think nobody until today has done that, in that manner that I did. So, and here almost 10 years after, it's been a crazy run, I fought some of the best guys in the world, was a contender in 205 too. So it's a blessing, I worked hard, I had my struggles, but I'm still here, so I'm thankful.
Talk to me a little bit about Aleksei as an opponent, kind of what he brings to the table. He'll be taller than you, but everybody you fight's taller than you, right? This is nothing new for you.
Everybody I fought in my career has been taller than me, so but it's nothing different there. What I can say about Oleinik is he's probably the most experienced guy in the UFC roster, almost 100 fights, wins over very big notable fighters, and a guy that comes to fight, puts the pressure, and he's a very, very tough opponent.
You guys have had some time together?
We trained a little bit in American Top Team, but not very much. But still, we spent some time there. Very respectful, a great guy.
Enough for you to pull anything out of any of those sessions and say, okay, I know he has this tendency or that tendency?
Not really. not really, but like I said, very well-rounded and not afraid to challenge and take the game where he needs.
10 years ago, maybe you talked to a fighter who was in his 40s or approaching 40, and you'd ask him, like, hey, when's the end of the road for you? It doesn't seem like it always necessarily has to be that way anymore. How much longer do you want to keep doing this? I mean, we've talked to guys who have said, hey, I'll do this till I'm 50.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the end right now. You know, I feel motivated, healthy, so I'm just going to keep going, you know, keep fighting, you know. So the most important thing is to be motivated and put on the training that you have to fight in this level.
How much do you think going up to heavyweight potentially was able to extend your career?
It helps. It helps for sure because, I mean, you see that in all weight class sports. With age, fighters go up in weight because you get bigger, you know. You see boxers going up with weight classes too when they get older. So it's rarely you see fighters go 10 years fighting and they're still at the same weight. So I think it's a natural process. Just a different step from other weight classes is when you're stepping up from light heavyweight to heavyweight, you're actually stepping up 3 weight classes or something like that. So it's a big difference in power, but, you know, it is what it is.
Hey there, how are you? Look, we've seen a lot of changes in the past few years in MMA, both the trash talking and social media and the evolution of the sport in general and the growth and the fan base. How do you think that it's changed most in the past 5 to, I guess, 10 years that you've been in the UFC?
I think the marketing part, like fighters marketing has become so much more important. And you see of these young generation of fighters that grew up with social media and everything, that they put a lot of effort on marketing themselves and the trash talking and the whole show around it. And it is as important as being a good fighter, I think, today. As most popular are, the more interest the organization is going to have to get you to the top, you know. So I think it's just a natural evolution of the sport, you know.
You think if you were just coming into the UFC now, you would have done things differently? Would you have talked trash?
Of course. Not maybe, you know, everybody has their type or how they are as a people, and I think you cannot play a role that you can't wear shoes that don't fit you, you know. But of course, I would do things different, you know. I mean, today you see fighters that they have one fight in the UFC, and they have a whole media team following them every training, you know. And I'm like, what is this? You know, he's just doing his first fight in the UFC, and it's like, so everything is like so much about marketing on social media, this and that, because the UFC has so much time to market you, you know. They can do it, but it's up to yourself to do it.
And then from a skill perspective, obviously we see the heavyweights and light heavyweights changing so much, like such a well-rounded game, guys like Tom Aspinall, we're seeing with crazy ground game and great striking. Do you think that that's evolved also? Fighters are coming up, focusing on the game as a whole instead of specializing?
100%. This is a relatively new sport, and I think we've seen the evolution every 3 to 5 years. We've seen like small evolutions in the game, you know, and it's a totally different kind of heavyweights that fight today, you know. Very well-rounded and very technical.